Imagine trusting a 1,000-pound animal with your life, not once, every single day, for years. You feel its power beneath you, the rhythmic stride, the controlled breathing. You approach a jump you have cleared 100 times. It is routine. It is safe. It is nothing. Then everything shatters. The horse slams to a dead stop. Your body launches forward. You hit the dirt hard. But the nightmare is just beginning. Before you can move, before anyone can reach you, the massive animal crashes down. 1,000 pounds of bone and muscle rolls directly over your body. The crushing force is instant. The injuries are catastrophic. And within hours, despite a desperate med flight and a trauma team fighting to save you, the darkness takes over. This was the horrifying reality Chloe Christina Smith faced on a quiet Friday evening in Groton, Massachusetts. To understand how a peaceful training session turned into a fatal disaster, you have to understand the delicate, invisible thread that keeps equestrian athletes safe. Riding a horse is an exercise in managed risk. Riders wear helmets and protective vests, but the ultimate safety equipment is the psychological bond between human and animal. For years, Chloe had mastered that bond. She was a Swampscott native, a bright, enthusiastic young woman who had dedicated her entire existence to the equestrian world. She was not a careless beginner making a rookie mistake. She was a professional who owned her own farm, trained extensively, and understood the animals she worked with better than almost anyone. That detail changed everything. When a novice falls, it is often chalked up to a lack of skill. But when an expert falls in a familiar setting, it sends a chilling reminder to everyone in the sport that experience is not a shield. The wilderness of an animal's instinct can never be fully tamed. The incident took place in Groton, Massachusetts, a rural town where sprawling horse farms are woven into the fabric of the community. It was a Friday evening in June 2026. Chloe was riding Boo's CruZe, a horse she affectionately called CruZe. She was not competing in a high-stakes arena with thousands of screaming fans. She was simply riding with a friend, working her way through a series of routine jumps. These are the kinds of practice sessions that fill the quiet hours of an equestrian's life. The jumps were set at familiar heights. The environment was controlled. There were no obvious warning signs, no extreme weather conditions, and no apparent reasons to feel afraid. But in the equestrian world, the absence of danger is an illusion. As Chloe guided CruZe toward a fence, the horse's demeanor suddenly shifted. In the language of show jumping, this is known as a refusal. A refusal happens when a horse, at the very last possible second, decides not to clear the obstacle. It can be triggered by a shadow, a strange sound, a miscalculated stride, or pure animal hesitation. When 1,000 pounds of galloping muscle suddenly slams on the brakes, the laws of physics take over. The momentum has nowhere to go but forward. The refusal came incredibly fast. Chloe was immediately thrown from the saddle, her body propelled over the horse's neck and toward the ground. That alone would have been horrifying. A bad fall can cause concussions, broken collarbones, or spinal injuries. Riders know how to tuck and roll, and Chloe had likely taken dozens of falls in her career, walking away with bruises and dusted-off breeches. But what happened next was even more disturbing. CruZe did not just stop at the fence. In the chaos of the sudden refusal, the massive animal lost its own balance. A horse falling is a rare and terrifying spectacle. They are top-heavy creatures, and when their legs give out, they collapse with immense, indiscriminate weight. Before Chloe could scramble out of the way, the horse crashed down, rolling directly onto her body. The human frame is simply not designed to withstand the crushing impact of a falling horse. The friend who was riding with Chloe witnessed the entire sequence unfold in a matter of seconds. The peaceful evening was instantly shattered by the sickening sound of the crash and the immediate, desperate realization of what had just happened. Emergency services were called immediately. First responders rushed to the Groton farm, their sirens piercing the quiet, rural landscape. When paramedics arrived, they found Chloe trapped in a critical state. The injuries she sustained from the crushing weight were so severe that ground transport to a local hospital was deemed insufficient. A Boston medflight helicopter was dispatched, landing nearby to airlift the young rider to UMass Memorial Medical Center in Worcester, which houses one of the most advanced trauma units in the region. For hours, a frantic battle to save her life took place. Her family rushed to the hospital, clinging to the hope that the young woman who had survived so many challenges could somehow pull through this. The medical team at UMass Memorial did everything modern medicine could offer. But the deeper investigators and doctors looked at her condition, the more devastating the reality became. The trauma inflicted by half a ton of falling weight had caused catastrophic internal damage. Despite the rapid response, the med flight, and the desperate efforts of the trauma surgeons, Chloe Christina Smith passed away. She was only 25 years old. Her father, Jim Smith, later spoke to the press through his grief. He offered a phrase that would echo across every news outlet covering the tragedy. He said she died living her dreams. It is a beautiful sentiment, but it carries a haunting paradox. The very thing that gave Chloe her purpose, her joy, and her identity was the exact force that ended her life. And that is where the story widened, because the tragedy of that Friday evening did not end with Chloe's death. The devastating impact of the rotational fall had not only crushed the rider, but it had also critically injured the animal. Boo's CruZe, the horse Chloe had trusted, the partner she had guided over countless fences, also suffered fatal injuries in the collapse. The horse did not survive. The symmetry of the loss left the Massachusetts equestrian community reeling. It was not just a rider who was lost, and it was not just an animal that was euthanized. An entire partnership was erased from the earth in a fraction of a second. The shockwave that hit the New England riding community was profound. Tributes flooded social media. Fellow trainers, farm owners, and riders remembered Chloe for her bright enthusiasm, her deep knowledge of equine care, and her unwavering dedication to the sport. An obituary noted that relatives and friends were invited to gather at a church in Marblehead to mourn a life cut brutally short. But beneath the tributes and the flowers, a dark, unspoken fear settled over the stables of Groton and beyond. Every rider who read the news felt a cold knot in their stomach, because every rider knows that what happened to Chloe could happen to any of them. Massachusetts law actually recognizes this brutal reality. The state has specific equine activity liability statutes that shield farm owners and professionals from lawsuits when riders are injured. The law explicitly states that participating in horse-related activities comes with inherent risks that cannot be eliminated. It acknowledges in legal text what every equestrian knows in their bones. Horses are unpredictable. They can be spooked, they can refuse, they can fall. But a legal disclaimer does nothing to soften the blow when the worst-case scenario actually unfolds. The tragedy of Chloe Smith forces us to confront a terrifying truth about our relationship with massive animals. We put saddles on them, we give them names, we guide them through courses, and we convince ourselves that we have mastered them. We build entire industries, sports, and lifestyles around the idea that human skill can override animal instinct. But control is fragile. It only takes one shadow, one misstep, one sudden refusal at a wooden fence to strip away all the training and leave nothing but gravity and weight. Chloe Christina Smith did everything right. She was. But in the end, no amount of skill could outrun the physics of 1,000 pounds falling out of control. The Groton paddock still stands. The jumps are still set. The dirt still waits for the next rider, the next horse, the next routine practice session that feels exactly like every other. But Chloe Christina Smith will never clear another fence. Her horse, CruZe, will never gallop across that field again. Two partners bound by years of trust and training, erased in a single heartbeat, leaving behind nothing but silence where the hoofbeats used to be. The sport goes on. The training continues. The illusion of safety returns because it has to. Without that illusion, no one would ever climb into a saddle. But on that quiet Massachusetts evening, the price of trust was paid in full. A father lost his daughter, a community lost one of its brightest, and a young woman who had spent her entire life mastering an animal capable of lethal force discovered in the final seconds that mastery was never the same as control. The tragedy of Chloe Smith is not that she was reckless. It is that she was not. She was doing everything right. She was in the right place with the right horse at the right time, practicing the right skill, and that is what makes this case so terrifying. Because if the worst can happen to a professional on a routine Friday evening, then the danger is not in the wild unknown. It is hiding inside the familiar. It is waiting inside the trust. It is lurking in the 1,000th repetition of a movement that suddenly, for no reason anyone can explain, becomes the last one. The jumps are still there. The sun still sets across that paddock. The riders still come and go, chasing the same dream Chloe chased. But somewhere in the dust, the memory remains of a refusal that came too fast, of a fall that never should have happened, of a crushing weight that no helmet, no vest, and no amount of preparation could stop. And the only thing left behind is the crushing truth that sometimes the animal you love most becomes the very thing that ends you. A professional. She was practicing in a controlled environment. She was riding a horse she knew.